If you're new to One Piece, there's a handful of mistakes that you can make when starting off. They're actually quite easy to avoid. So in this video, I'm going to give you 7 tips that will help you avoid these mistakes and make you a better player when starting off. Let me just take a second of your time to give you a little bit of backstory as to why I am suited to give you these tips. So essentially, I've been playing card games for a very long time. Before One Piece, I played Hearthstone, I played Runeterra. By no means was I a pro at either of these games, but I did spend a lot of hours in these games, a lot of hours practicing these games and being shit at these games, to be honest. Gave me a lot of experience in the TCG world. Taught me some universal concepts, resource management, sequencing, and card advantage. Now what this did is it low-key led me into a mind state of false securement, because when I picked up One Piece, I thought, you know what, I've been playing card games for a minute now. I'm going to be so good at this game. Let me tell you how wrong I was. Let's start off with lesson 1, which is your experience from other TCGs won't translate one for one. One Piece also asks different questions. When do I need to take a life opposed to keeping a life? When do I discard a card from my hand for counter or keep said card? One of the biggest differences in One Piece is card advantage. In One Piece, your cards are also used as counters. So that took a long time for me to get used to, because in the other 2 games, it doesn't translate at all. Your cards are not your counters. You have counter spells or other ways to counter attacks. So that was a really steep learning curve for me. Essentially, if you're coming from other TCGs, what I want to tell you is don't expect to pick up One Piece immediately. Don't go in thinking that you're going to be amazing. What I would suggest is go in with an open mind. No matter how much experience you have prior, do yourself a favor and be ready to learn. I'll leave you with this. Just remember, being good at a card game helps, but being teachable at a card game helps you excel. All right, lesson 2 is a big one here. This is something that I still do to this day when picking up new card games. It's do not build decks without understanding the fundamentals. I know, coming from someone who loves deck building, finds an immense amount of fun out of deck building and figuring out new variations. Let me tell you, it will only slow down your learning process if you jump in and you start deck building without understanding structure, without understanding fundamentals, without understanding the game. It's not worth it. You're going to waste time on your journey. Let me explain. If you're changing your deck every so often, or you're playing with a deck that you've built that isn't meta, you're going to have your ass handed to you. And you're not going to be able to learn the problems. You're not going to be able to understand what is essentially going wrong. There are things that you need to learn from the foundations before you can start building decks. When you're losing, is it because of sequencing? Is it because you mulliganed the wrong cards? Is it a bad matchup? Are you countering at the wrong time? Are you taking life too early? There are just way too many variables. That's why I recommend net decking. I didn't do it. I'm an idiot. And I shat on people for such a long time who did do it. But all it did was slow down my learning process. Another benefit of net decking is you've got a deck that works. Other people play it, it's topping, it's doing really well. What this does is it allows you to focus on what you're doing wrong. If you know the deck is good, then obviously you know that there's something that you're doing wrong. This allows you to focus on those things and ultimately get better at the game. Let's wrap up lesson 2 on this note. If you do get to a point where you're starting to deck build and you're comfortable, right? And you think that you're at a position where I've learned the foundations, let's start to edit these decks that I've copied, right? I want you to ask yourself a simple question. If somebody asked you, hey, why did you make this change? Why have you put this card instead of this card? I need you to be able to answer that with 100% certainty. I don't need you to be right in your selection, because I'm not saying that the cards you put in may be right, they could be wrong, they might be shit, they just may not work. The whole point here is I want you to think about it actively as to why you're putting these cards in, so that if somebody asks you a question, you can answer that question with confidence. Don't try and build better decks first. Try and be a better player first. You just got to remember to focus on your foundations first before moving into the deck building. Let's jump into lesson 3. This is losing doesn't mean that your deck is bad. Asterisks. Because touching on the last point, if you've built a deck and you don't know the foundations and you're going in, then your deck could be shit. But if you're net decking and you're using a good deck, it means that you've got lessons to learn. Let me explain. What would happen is, back in the day, I would build my own decks. I would then lose with those decks because they were shit. And then I would make changes to those decks. And all this did was prevent me from learning. All it did was make me focus on the wrong aspects of the game. I wasn't actually fixing any of the reasons as to why I lost. I wasn't even looking into the reasons to why I lost. It was simply, oh, this deck lost. It must have been something that I've done wrong in terms of the build crafting aspect. Let's go back to the drawing board and add something. And this was albeit after 1 or 2 matches. How are you meant to truly understand what works and what doesn't if you're changing the deck up every single time? You really need to ask yourself the question, again, if you're playing a deck that is competitive, that is good, did you lose because of the deck, or did you lose because of the way you were playing? That's the whole point of lesson 3, is to take a step back and building off of lesson 2, build net deck, a good deck, learn the foundations, and then once you've got the foundations, stick with that deck and start to learn why you're losing these matchups when you should be winning. Start to understand key takeaways from the game. One thing that really helped me is that I've got 2 friends that I play with, and we started in set 1. They, even to this day, they have the ability to pick up a deck that I'm playing and generally be better at that deck. All that tells me is that they've got more experience with the card game. They're more comfortable in understanding the core mechanics of the card game. So if you have a friend or you've got somebody, lean on them to collaborate. Ask them, hey, what do you think of this deck? I've net decked this. Is it a pretty standard deck? Yeah, it's good. It's competitive. Are you comfortable with the deck? See if they will play it. See if they're good. Watch their gameplay. Learn from them. Because again, reiterating the point, just because you're losing with this deck does not mean it's bad. It means that there's something to learn. It means that you can just focus on improving your skills. The key takeaway here is pick a deck, learn the foundations. If you're losing, it's because you're doing something wrong. Understand what that is. Always remember to review your gameplay or others before you look to rebuild and go back to the drawing board. Let's go to lesson 4. 4 touches on the fact that I was talking about playing off meta. Playing off meta too early can slow your improvement. It did for me, again, as I mentioned, big pitfall. Let me explain. I love deck building. You know this by now. There's nothing cooler than showing up to locals, right, after building, putting in a lot of effort into your deck, and attempting to just dominate locals with this deck that nobody's seen before. And especially when you pull it off, I'm telling you, there's no better feeling. However, doing that is easier said than done. Most of the time, you'll take this deck in, all the practice you've got prior is nothing in comparison to the meta decks that you're now playing that are destroying you, just absolutely wiping the floor. And you're left wondering, why did I waste 2 of my nights this week trying to chop and change this deck, only to turn into a fucking mob and have the floor cleaned with your ass. Learn the foundation first and foremost before you start deck building, before you start changing, before you start playing off meta decks. All these are going to hinder your ability to move forward as a player. Remember, learn the game first, then you can change how you play the game. Let's go into lesson 5. Lesson 5 is the best lesson. It's the most fun lesson. It's go to locals. Trust me, go to locals because you're going to learn more at locals than you will anywhere else. The sim is excellent. Playing the sim, you're going to learn a lot, but you're going to learn a lot within a bubble. And this bubble sometimes isn't a great representation of how the world outside is operating, the TCG world, that is. Don't get me wrong, I use the sim all the time. But I found is that I would dominate on the sim, even on the ranked ladder, and I would come in the locals, and I'd use the exact same deck, 1 for 1, and I have my ass handed to me. And what I began to realize is that the sim doesn't differentiate where you are in the world. So you're versing a bunch of different decks, generally the most popular decks, but still there's a large variable of decks. When you go to locals, versing decks that are popular within your region, because each region has a specific meta realistically. It doesn't differ too much, but it does differ enough. Another thing is that when you're at home, you get your headphones on, you're listening to music, you're chilling out, you don't have to focus on anything else except for the game. When you're at locals, you've got noises coming from everywhere. You've got people talking. Maybe you're a little bit anxious to go to locals. You're not super social, so that impacts you as well. Then you've got the pressure of actual time because each round is time. You've got the pressure of having physical cards as well, things that you need to manage at the same time. There is just so many things that can throw you off. So it's really important that you understand how to play the game under a little bit of pressure. And that's why going to locals is phenomenal. Another thing that you get from locals is the ability to converse with people. When you play a game, you're going to learn the most if you sit there with that person and after the game say, hey, what did I do wrong? Can you see where I went wrong? I noticed that this matchup I'm actually meant to win, apparently, and I lost. Do you mind, is there anything that you saw that I could improve on? And truthfully, most of the time players are really chill. You get one or two people who are like, no, get better kid, and then move on. But like, it's super rare. Most of the time they're like, let me show you, here we go. Do you want to run another match? If you match finish quickly, there is so much good that comes from the community at your local game store. Now, I know the biggest thing here is that let's say you haven't played the sim. Let's say you are just new and you've got a starter deck and you want to go. Do it. There's literally no harm. You're going to get packs for going. You're going to be social for the week. You're going to understand more than you ever will because you have the chance to talk to other players. And you might just make some new friends. Trust me when I say going to locals every now and then is crucial for your One Piece development. Lesson 6, I'm going to talk about it. Most people don't admit it, but it's about comparing yourself to others. This can translate to anything in life, realistically, but let's talk about it in the TCG spectrum. Let's talk about it in regards to One Piece. You'll find that some people pick up this game, or any game for this matter, TCG game, quicker than you. It doesn't matter. Do not focus on other people's progress. Do not compare your skills with other players, right? All it's going to do is make you feel shitty. It's going to take the joy out of what you're doing, and it's going to make you feel like you're not good enough. On the rare players, don't get me wrong, there are a fair few that compare and all it does is light a fire under their ass and then they just dominate. But that isn't everybody. It doesn't translate, again, for everybody. Most people, they compare, they feel shit, and they're like, well, you know what, I might just give up. Or they just stay in this plateau their whole time. People don't like admitting it. I still do it to this day. The friends I mentioned beforehand, they're better than me. And honestly, one of them has never played card games before. The biggest thing here is also to remember that everybody is on their own journey in the TCG world. And so some people have been playing for years. Some people have just started. You don't know where they are in their journey. So comparing you and your journey to theirs is only going to hinder your growth. You need to focus on what's in front of you, focus on what you're doing, focus on how you can do better, stay in your lane. I'm not saying be an asshole and don't talk to people. I'm just saying you want to stay out of your head and stay on the board, realistically. Do not compare to other people because you are working at your own pace. You're going to get there. All it requires is effort. It genuinely requires effort. And then from there, you get a better understanding of the game, mechanics, foundations, etc. Rinse and repeat. I feel like you're starting to see a really good theme overarching here, and it's foundations. Foundations are so fucking important. Basically, if you want to compare to somebody, compare yourself to yourself. All right, lesson 7. This is the last one for the day. We're almost done. This is sometimes you can do absolutely everything right and you can still lose. And this is the most frustrating thing. You got to remember, at the end of the day, it's a card games inherently are luck-based. Yes, there are a lot of different variables that can change the tides, but you can just have bad matchups. You can have hands that brick out. You can not see your curve. You can truly just have bad luck. And I'm not saying, oh, that's a cop-out and blame it on your luck. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that sometimes you can play really well and you can still lose. This is for the people who expect to win every single game, or they expect to win this matchup, right? They expect, oh, I'm getting better, so I should be winning. Sometimes you're going to lose. Do not focus on the loss itself. Sometimes you can be really analytical and be like, oh, what did I do? Let's dissect this. And it should be most of your games. But sometimes you'll look at a game, you'll be like, there actually isn't anything I could have done differently. And that's a hard pill to swallow. it can be quite frustrating. And really, if you don't listen or you don't see that and you start dissecting, you're looking at shit that doesn't need to be looked at. You're pulling things apart where you don't need to be pulling them apart. And then you could potentially be placing doubt in yourself. If you want to ask questions and you want to dissect the situation, don't really ask, why did I lose? I think it's too broad, right? There are too many things. Ask yourself, did you make the right choices with all the information you had, right? Be it cards, etc. I leave that one to you. But if you made the right choice every step of the way, then there really isn't anything to look into further than that. You lost, chat about it if you need to, but don't get caught up in the analytical approach. Remember, it's a hobby. Most people playing this game for fun. So if you're not having fun, you're feeling really shitty all the time, just take a step back and remember why you're doing this. Some people it doesn't translate, but some people, they just play it competitive. They want to be really good at the game. This isn't for you. This is for people who want to be good at the game, but also want to have fun at the game. Just remember to breathe, take a step back and ask yourself, if you're not really enjoying the game, why are you playing? All right, so that was a bit of a different video, but I hope it helped. These were 7 tips that I wish I knew when I was starting out. If you get new into One Piece and you're starting off, genuinely let me know if they helped. Let me know what your favorite step was. And if you're not new to One Piece, maybe you've been playing for a little bit, I want to know if you picked up any useful information. Was this just useful for beginners, or was this also useful for intermediate or novice? And if either of you found this video useful, please consider subscribing. We're on the road to 1,000. We are making headway. Let's try and get there by the end of the year. The journey is only ramping up. But most importantly, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.